So, hello and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us here at the DFB campus in Frankfurt with the German national team players, coaches and everyone in and around the DFB team here, of course, in preparation for the two first friendlies of the new year. And, well, what friendlies to look forward to. Some fantastic fixtures with games against France and the Netherlands as we get our first look at some of the players as well, just making their way out onto the training ground, giving us a little snippet and a little insight into these preparations. Interesting team selection to look forward to for Julian Nagelsmann as well. Be great to see how he tries to implement and utilize some of the players. A number of new faces, some very young ones in the mix as well. Under 21 Euro winner Waldemar Anton being called up for the very first time. So too Maximilian Mittelstädt, Dennis Undaff, all three Stuttgart players. Maximilian Bayer from Hoffenheim, Jan-Niklas Beste from Heidenheim, and of course probably the biggest name amongst the youngsters and new faces, Bayern Munich's Alexander Pavlovic, who in taking part in this international break with the German first team, of course pledges his allegiance to Germany in the future as well. So a big moment for him, possibly a big moment for the German national team going forward as well. He's such an incredible talent and a fantastic acquisition for the German national team. Has showed what he's capable of with Bayern Munich already this season, which is why so many were eager to get him on board with the German national team as quickly as possible. Julian Nagelsmann saying his selection, nothing to do with politics though. And I'd have to probably agree with him there. I mean, he's certainly earned his call up this season with some of the performances he's been putting in for the German national team. And be interesting to see if we see him take part and in action against either France or the Netherlands. We won't be seeing him here at the open training session, however. He has been struggling with a bit of a virus, so a little bit of illness for the 19-year-old to deal with, but hopefully something he can get over quickly and then join up with his international teammates as quickly as possible as well. Big thank you to everyone joining us on YouTube or wherever you might be tuning in from. Nice to see we definitely have some Undaff fans watching on. So let's just go through the squad selection for Julian Nagelsmann for these two friendlies. A quick reminder as well. The first friendly against France will be in Lyon, so the team will jet off here from Frankfurt, head over to Lyon on Friday to take on France on Saturday. That's a 9 o'clock kickoff in the evening, Central European time, before they return to Frankfurt to then take on the Netherlands on Tuesday the 26th of March, and that is a 8:45 Central European time kickoff in the evening. But going back to the squad selection then, well, let's take a look at the goalkeepers. Oliver Baumann, the 33-year-old Hoffenheim keeper, has been selected, not for the first time, but he's yet to make an appearance for the German national team. That could change over the course of the next week or so as well. So what a story that would be for him. Just goes to show that age is but a number, and as long as you perform to the best of your ability, that call-up could come at any stage of your career. Joining him in the goalkeeping department, Fulham's Bernd Leno, who's had a great season with the London side. Gets another call-up as well. Manuel Neuer and Marc-Andre ter Stegen. No surprises to see those two there, the two most experienced at senior international called back in as well, not to mention Bernd Leno. And one player I personally am really looking forward to seeing in action in a Germany shirt is Bayern Munich's Jamal Musiala. What a talent he is turning into. Well, a talent he has been for the past few seasons, but you really see him growing as a player with every challenge that comes his way. Bayern Munich perhaps not with the best season, not by their standards anyway. I'm sure Bayern Munich fans and everyone involved with the club will be relatively disappointed with how the season's gone, but have had a few shining lights, to say the least. Of course, Harry Kane firing on all cylinders since joining the club, and then for me, following in his footsteps, Jamal Musiala, who has been absolutely outstanding on an individual level and could really be a big name for Team Germany, not just for these two upcoming friendlies, but in coming years as well. It does feel like this is almost a reset for the German national team, having been so successful at tournaments in, I want to say recent times, very recent times, perhaps not so much, but it does feel like it's undergoing a new sort of evolution and evolving into something new and different, bringing in young players. Of course, Florian Wirtz, another player who I personally think will be a big player in the press conference in the build-up to this international break as well, stating himself that he does feel Julian Brandt has had a good season, but has decided to go a different route, try and bring in some other players, see what they can bring to the table. Of course, so important to these preparations is trying things out, trying new systems out, trying new combinations in terms of players out. Sometimes it's not always the big names on the starting lineup sheet that will get the job done, that will secure the victory. Nowadays, more than ever, it's more about balancing your squad and how you can perform as a team, how you bring the best out of a team rather than what individuals can bring to the table. Now, that of course doesn't mean that big names and individuals and individual performances cannot influence the team and have a positive effect on the team and help carry that team through difficult times. But it's finding that balance of big names and players who are simply in form and playing well. I think a lot of national teams perhaps don't do that enough. They perhaps rely on big names regardless of current form, and it does hamper their performances at tournaments more often than not. So personally, I think it's a bold move, but a smart move by Julian Nagelsmann to try and bring in some fresh faces and see how they fare in and amongst it at a national team level. And of course, you always have to have one eye on the future as well. Part of being the national team head coach is not only making the best out of what you've got, but making sure that what you've got coming through is coming through well, adapting well, and being shown the way, if you like. So to any of you who've perhaps just joined us, another quick reminder of that squad selection by Julian Nagelsmann. The goalkeepers: Oliver Baumann, Bernd Leno, Manuel Neuer and Marc-André ter Stegen. The defenders: Waldemar Anton, Jan-Niklas Beste, Benjamin Henrichs, Joshua Kimmich, Robin Koch, Maximilian Mittelstädt, David Raum, Antonio Rüdiger, Jonathan Tah. Then in midfield, Robert Andrich, Chris Führich, Pascal Groß, Ilkay Gündoğan, Toni Kroos, Jamal Musiala, Alexander Pavlovic and Florian Wirtz. And as for the forwards, Maximilian Bayer getting his first call-up, Niklas Füllkrug, Kai Havertz, Thomas Müller and Deniz Undav. So plenty of big names, plenty of new faces, plenty to look forward to. Do give us your predictions in the chat. How do you think Germany will fare against the 2022 World Cup runners-up France, or then against the Netherlands just a few days later. I think the France game should be a really good test for this German side, and should give them a really good idea of where they're currently at performance-wise, taking on arguably one of the favourites to win the tournament in the summer, France, a never-ending factory of world-class players. It really is incredible how they just keep producing young talent, and then how that young talent develops into a world-class talent at club level, at international level. They really have been a threat in recent years, and I don't think it'll be any different at the Euros in the summer. I think France will be one of the teams to beat, to say the least. So they do have a tough group. Austria and the Netherlands in Group D. Germany, one would argue, perhaps have the easier route towards the knockout stages. Another reminder of that Group A that Germany find themselves in, with Scotland, Hungary and Switzerland. Will play Scotland first on the 14th of June in the Allianz Arena in Munich. Will also be interesting to see what sort of a lineup and formation Julian Nagelsmann goes with. Of course, the last friendly that Germany had before the new year was that 2-0 defeat away in Austria, a game which of course had Leroy Sané sent off, the likes of Brandt, Goretzka, Hummels all in the team at the time, Kevin Trapp in goal as well. Hummels not part of the squad for these two friendlies, neither Kevin Trapp. Leroy Sané will not take part. Of course, he's suspended after that red card. And Goretzka also not joining up with the team. So too, Gnabry not part of things either. Julian Nagelsmann saying in the press conference that he wants to go a different route and go with players that are in form. So what do you guys think of that? One of you in chats, Ian Das, we need to be defensively strong, need to get back our German mindset and try pushing harder and harder. Whether we get yellow card, red card, doesn't matter. We need to win. That should be the mindset. Well, definitely. It does feel like Germany have not quite lost their way in recent years, but it doesn't seem to be quite the same mindset. Of course, when you have that winner's mentality, that comes with winning on a regular basis, something that Germany have done for the majority of their time in international football. They have just gone away slightly from that in recent years, and perhaps has dented their confidence and that winning mentality, as you put it. Definitely something that is needed in well, at every level of the game. If you want to get your hands on trophies, if you want to bring trophies back to your country, and that is the mindset you have to have. But I do think they've got plenty of players that will have that sort of mindset within their ranks. The likes of Manuel Neuer, of course, is a name that really sticks out. The more experienced heads like İlkay Gündoğan was a serial winner, not just with Germany, but also in the Premier League with Manchester City. Of course, Toni Kroos, a man who was part of the better days with Team Germany, but then went on to win pretty much everything you can at club level with Real Madrid. So just one or two names there. I think perhaps Thomas Müller you could probably put in that mix as well. Arguably, in my opinion, one of the greatest players in German football history. Although he's not finished yet, I think he's still got a part to play. But my God, what a footballer. And if you look at his trophy cabinet, I don't think anyone can argue with what that man has achieved. Not just with Bayern Munich, but at big international tournaments as well. Well, great to see people joining us from all around the world here. It really is a pleasure to have you here with us. We do hope you're enjoying the stream, even with a few technical difficulties here and there. We've got fans joining us from India, from Trinidad and Tobago. Absolutely fantastic to have you here. And thank you so much for joining us and getting involved. We hope you are enjoying this little snippet of live training here in Frankfurt with Team Germany. The perfect midfield lineup for Euro 2024. That is a fantastic question. Where do you find the balance? I think you probably need experience, but then you need speed and agility in today's game as well. I think with Toni Kroos, you bring that calmness, that experience, that game knowledge, that game intelligence in. For me, he has to start. Of course, İlkay Gündoğan has been handed the captain's armband, which would suggest he'll be starting as well. But then who do you put in and around those two? You need it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, there's so many to choose from. I think perhaps a Pascal Gross, who's been doing really well at Brighton in the Premier League, can offer some of that speed, that agility. Young Alexander Pavlovic, the 19-year-old from Bayern Munich, called up into the squad and the first team for the very first time. You won't be seeing him here in these live pictures from training, as we see Sandro Wagner putting the boys through some drills. Pavlovic suffering from a virus, a bug, so suffering with illness, but should hopefully be able to shake that off quickly and join up with the rest of the team in preparation for those two friendlies against France and the Netherlands. Aiden Das, Toni Kroos, Robert Andrich and Pavlovic. Yeah, well, Pavlovic, great shout. I think he's shown at Bayern Munich what he's capable of, and I think it's only on and upwards for that young man, both at club and international level. Robert Andrich, really good shout. Leverkusen, I mean, what a season they've been having in Germany. They've taken the league by storm, and Andrich has certainly played his part, which is why it's no surprise to see him in and amongst it here in Frankfurt with the national team. I wouldn't be surprised to see him starting against France either. I think that's a really good shout there. Aiden Das in the YouTube chat. Thank you for that. Javier Kimmich calling for Kimmich. I'm going to take a wild guess here, Javier, and suggest that you might be a Joshua Kimmich fan. Of course, Joshua Kimmich, although not necessarily one of the older players, is still very much in his prime. You'd have to say he is probably one of the more experienced midfielders. Definitely has that winning mentality, being a Bayern Munich player, but could certainly have a shout for starting. Javier Kimmich also wants to see Wirtz and Musi. Yeah, well, Musiala for me has to start. I think he's been a fantastic addition to the national team. Just seems to go from strength to strength with every season, every challenge that comes his way. Big future at Bayern Munich or elsewhere, if rumours have any truth to them. There are some people saying he might be moving on in the summer, perhaps over to the Premier League. Will that dampen his or dent his chances at being an international team player? I highly doubt it. I think he'll be a regular for years to come. And as for Florian Wirtz, well, just like Andrich, as we mentioned previously, part of that Leverkusen team that has taken the Bundesliga by storm. Florian Wirtz, another superb player who is on the rise and will certainly have a big part to play for Germany in the years to come, hopefully at the Euros in the summer as well. Rüdiger and Tah, or Rüdiger and Anton at the back. Well, I think Nagelsmann has already expressed that his two go-to central defenders will be Rüdiger and Tah. I think they're going to be his two pillars of stability and partners in crime in central defence. And then the other positions in and around them, depending on what sort of a lineup they play. Perhaps a back three with the two wing backs, which we saw against Austria. Didn't quite pay off there, but certainly a formation that Nagelsmann does like to use, or a classic four at the back, maybe even with Rüdiger and Tah in the middle. Then who goes right, who goes left of them? That's, well, we'll have to wait and see. Blanco. I remember the epic midfield of 2014 with Kroos, Khedira and Schweinsteiger. Germany always had great generations in those positions. Very, very true. Kroos, Khedira and Schweinsteiger. Well, what a trio that was. Some fantastic players. Incredible to think that Kroos, the only one still left, still standing, if you like, who is doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon either. Still doing his bit at Real Madrid and still important to the German national team. And of course all that experience he brings with him as well for some of the youngsters to feed off will be invaluable to Nagelsmann and his coaching team. Left back Mittelstadt, right back Kimmich. Yeah, well, Joshua Kimmich, I think that's part of the reason he's always in the squad, obviously because of his ability, his talent, that goes without saying, but I think it's his versatility as a player as well. He can sort of slot into a back three, play sort of a central defender, if you like, sort of either side of the most central one of those three. He can play in a right back position, but he can also fill in sort of central midfield, defensive midfield, can even get forward and in an attacking sense and be a sort of more of an attacking midfielder if need be, a box-to-box midfielder if need be. And those are the kind of players you need at international tournaments because he ticks all the boxes. He's got the right age, the right mentality. He's got the experience at playing in big games, big tournaments, but then he can also put in a shift in so many different positions. And at tournaments, when your squad is already selected, you know, when things like suspensions or injuries come into play, players like Joshua Kimmich are worth their golden weight, if you like, because they just bring so much to the table. Yes, Jordan, we do apologize for the technical difficulties we are having here with the picture quality. It's not quite what was planned, but sometimes you just have to roll with the punches. And with what you've got, we presume there might be some technical problems down in Frankfurt at the DFB campus, which is where the team currently finds themselves in preparation for those two big friendlies, the first two friendlies of the year against France and then against the Netherlands a few days later. In the meantime, while we wait for the picture to hopefully return, feel free to get involved in chat. Let us know who you want to see starting against France or the Netherlands or both. Who you want to see in the squad for the Euros in the summer. Are there any players missing that you feel deserve a call-up that haven't been called up? She's saying Neuer will start no matter what. Well, most likely I'd have to probably agree with you there. It's hard to get past Manuel Neuer when it comes to selecting your starting goalkeeper, but Julian Nagelsmann saying in the build-up to this that that position is still open, and he is still open to being convinced as to who should take that number one spot in goal. Of course, Manuel Neuer with 117 international caps will most likely be your first choice. The player closest to that, Marc-Andre ter Stegen, the Barcelona keeper, with 38 caps to his name. Bernd Leno with just 9. Oliver Baumann, the fourth keeper selected for these two friendlies, yet to make an appearance at international level. Of course, the likes of Kevin Trapp still in the mix, could still get a call-up. We'll have to wait and see. Gabriel Candablanco in the chat. If Julian manages to bring together Musiala, Wirtz, Kroos and Ilkay, we will undoubtedly enjoy great football. Well, there is that balance of freshness and youth, agility, hunger, with sort of experience and sort of match and tournament intelligence. I think it's a great shout. Musiala, Wirtz, Kroos and Gundogan would make a really dynamic and exciting four in midfield. Musiala probably with a license to sort of venture forward a little more. Probably the most threatening in terms of creating something in that final third. But the link-up play with the likes of Gundogan, whose distribution and an eye for a pass, probably second to none in that Germany squad, could make for a really interesting combination there, definitely. It's a great shout. Thank you for getting involved and having your say. Even if the pictures aren't necessarily playing along with us today, we do appreciate those of you who have stuck with us and are getting involved in the chat. Suradeep Chowdhury, a German supporter from West Bengal in India. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us from all the way over in West Bengal. Feel free to let us know what you think about Julian Nagelsmann's squad selection and who you want to see in action in the coming days in those two friendlies. Of course, on Saturday take on France, and then the following Tuesday they take on the Netherlands in the first two friendlies of the new year. I have to say, it is fantastic to have Toni Kroos back in the mix. The 2014 World Cup winner, of course, coming out of a 3-year period of international retirement. And was a player who was in high demand in terms of autographs when fans were surrounding the players as they arrived at the DFB campus. More love from India in the chats. Big thank you again. Thank you for joining us. I think personally, I'm quite looking forward to seeing how Kai Havertz does in this Julian Nagelsmann team. I've been extremely impressed with his performances for Arsenal. I think there were quite a few people when he was at Chelsea who perhaps forgot about the Kai Havertz that's or whose performances earned that transfer to Chelsea. I think he was part of a team there where it didn't quite fit the way he likes to play football, didn't quite bring the best out of him. And I think there were a few eyebrows raised when he joined Arsenal, especially with the fee involved as well. But he really has proved worth every penny. If you ask me, has slotted into that Arsenal team, has become a regular starter for Arteta. And has arguably been one of his best performers, one of his more consistent and reliable performers this season. As we see love coming in from Indonesia as well. Oman Abdul Malik, welcome to the stream. So Karim Fachweg, Baumann in goal, Mittelstädt, Anton, Koch, Raum, Andrich, Kroos, Musiala, Wirtz, Führich and Bayer. Well, that is a very experimental team, I'm not going to lie. I highly doubt we'll see that starting 11 at a big international tournament, but who knows, perhaps Nagelsmann might try it out over these two friendlies, although I do think he'll try and, as previously mentioned, bring some experience in there and mix it together with some of the freshness that this squad does have in it. But I do like the lineup. I think it's definitely a team that could give plenty a game, with Kroos in there. Of course, does bring that experience. But apart from that, it's experimental, but I do like it. Javier Kimmich, a big Kimmich fan and German. Well, there you go. So Waino Sane and Gnabry. Shreta, thank you for joining us in the chat. Well, Sane is suspended. Picked up a red card in that 2-0 defeat against Austria back in November of last year, the last friendly the team had. So he's not available for selection and unavailable to play. Gnabry, simply based on form and lack of game time for Bayern Munich of late, I think has not made the squad. Julian Nagelsmann stating in the build-up to these two friendlies that his selection was going to be based on players who were playing regularly, players who are in form for their clubs, who are making an impact, and his aim is to bring those performances, that form and the mentality, mindset that those players find themselves in at club level. He wants to bring that into the international team setup while it's fresh, and hopes that it will have a positive impact on the other players there, but also on the performances for Germany in these friendlies against France and the Netherlands. So Anzar Karim, a big Müller fan, needs to play. So much leadership qualities. Absolutely, I think he's shown at Bayern Munich this season as well, during what has been a difficult season. When you do watch Bayern Munich play and Müller is out on the pitch, he's automatically a leader out there. And I think other players, be it young, in their prime, or perhaps towards the end of the career, I think they feed off that when they see the amount of effort he puts in, and not to mention his willingness to win. Thomas Müller, for me, will go down as one of the greats, not just for Germany, but in football. I think what he's achieved as a player at club level and international level is unmatched by pretty much most, if not everyone. I think what he's done for Germany, World Cups and Euros, is absolutely outstanding, and it's that experience, that calmness as well, that he brings, I think, in the changing room, but then that hunger and will to win out on the pitch. Such a beautiful combination, and I think a lot of the young faces in this squad will certainly feed off that. So having him in the squad, let alone on the pitch, I think is always a good thing for Germany. Let's take another look at the chat here. Utam Shrestha, excited to see Wirtz performing. Yep, definitely. Couldn't agree with you more there. Anzar Karim. Will Pavlovic make it in this squad? Well, he is part of the squad, Pavlovic. He's suffering from a virus at the moment, which is why he's not taking part in training here today, but he has been called up to the squad, which if he then does play, will also mean that he selects Germany over Serbia at senior level. So I think it would probably be very likely that we will see him play against either France or the Netherlands in the coming days. Gabriel Candablanco, do you think Kimmich will be a right back in the Euros, or do you see options for him to participate in the midfield? Gross also has that versatility. Definitely, Pascal Gross, another player who can play a number of positions. I think Kimmich probably ahead of him in terms of the number of positions he can play at a really high level. Although, having said that, perhaps we just haven't seen Gross play in as many positions because the need simply hasn't been there. I think what Kimmich can do is he can play at the highest of levels in the biggest of games in multiple positions. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in at a right back, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a sort of defensive midfield role either. I even wouldn't be surprised to see Joshua Kimmich play multiple positions in multiple games during the group stage of the Euros. I think that's why he's probably one of the first names on the squad sheet for any Germany manager, simply because of how many options he gives you in building your teams, building your squads, building your starting lineups, depending on your opponent, depending on the game, and depending on the occasion as well. Ansgar Karim, would Germany consider calling Werner and Reus back up into the team? Well, it's a good shout. Reus, it's a difficult one. He doesn't play as regularly as he has in the past. Dortmund perhaps not having the season they were hoping for either. I don't think there's a lot going his way in terms of being called up. Would I be surprised to see him in the squad? No, because again, he brings that experience. I don't think anyone can doubt his talent. But I think the question there then is, are there other players who perhaps are more in form and can have more of a regular impact in a tournament format than Reus at the moment? Werner, another good shout. Certainly has found some form since heading back into the Premier League, joining up with Tottenham Hotspurs. He's definitely upped his game and confidence in recent game weeks. He's found the back of the net a few times as well as getting in on the assists. Ange Postecoglou, the man in charge at Tottenham, certainly seems to be a big fan of him. And as Nagelsmann said in the build-up to these friendlies, that the door is still open in the build-up to the Euros. So the squad selected here is not necessarily the final squad. I think there's still plenty of room for movement, and he even said it would be silly of him not to select his squad for the Euros based on form. So those final 10 games of the season or so could have a big part to play and have a big say in who does make Euro 2024 team. Love Germany team from Nepal, Ram Pudasaini. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Thank you for joining us from Nepal. Great to have you here. And hope you're enjoying the live stream here of the training, even with the technical difficulties we are having. And Karim, where's Füllkrug? Füllkrug is in part of the squad. Not sure if he's out on the pitch at the moment. He might be over doing a finishing exercise. Some players, of course, also inside on some of the bikes and stuff like that as well. So for those of you who have just joined, and for those of you who are still here, I do apologize for going through the squad selection one more time, but just to give some of the viewers who've only just joined us an idea of who has made the squad for these two games on the 23rd and the 26th of March in Lyon and Frankfurt against France and the Netherlands. So in the goalkeeping department, we have Oliver Baumann from Hoffenheim, then Fulham's Bernd Leno, and the two regulars Manuel Neuer and Marc-André ter Stegen. Oliver Baumann yet to make an international appearance at the age of 33, although this is not his first call-up. Then the defenders, Waldemar Anton, Jan-Niklas Beste, Benjamin Henrichs, Joshua Kimmich, Robin Koch, Maximilian Mittelstädt, David Raum, Antonio Rüdiger and Jonathan Tah. Rüdiger and Tah have already been sort of praised by Nagelsmann as his two go-to central defenders. So I think we can expect to see those two being partners in crime in that central defense. As to who will play right or left of them, we'll have to wait and see. In midfield, we have Robert Andrich, Chris Führich, Pascal Gross, Ilkay Gündoğan, who has also been given the captain's armband. And Toni Kroos back in the squad after 3 years away. Great to see the Real Madrid midfielder with 106 caps for his country, looking to make his 107th in the coming days. Also in midfield, we have Jamal Musiala, Florian Wirtz, and the 19-year-old from Bayern Munich, Alexander Pavlovic, not with the squad today, suffering from illness, but is a part of the squad for those 2 friendlies. And then the 5 attacking players, or 5 strikers if you like: Maximilian Bayer, Niklas Füllkrug, Kai Havertz, Thomas Müller, and Deniz Undav. So some interesting names there, some exciting names, and will be interesting to see how Julian Nagelsmann decides to use that group of players. Edward Muchiri, viel Glück Deutschland, liebe Grüße aus Kenia. Liebe Grüße zurück, Edward Muchiri. Great to see people joining us from Kenya as well. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Karim Fafe. Werner should be called, even though he's not performing better than the called players. He has the mentality to improve his skills. He believes he has the potential. Well, again, I'd agree with you there. I think he's currently, as we sit here now, or stand here now, whatever you might be doing at home, I think he's doing everything he can to put his name in the hat, which is all you can do as a player. I think he's definitely giving Julian Nagelsmann some food for thought, and that's all he can keep doing. I think the end of the season, be it in the Bundesliga, in the Premier League, or wherever you might be playing in La Liga, I think these last 10 games, players who are sort of in the mix but still have question marks over their names in terms of selection, this is the time they need to step up at a club level and really put in the work, you know, stand out and earn your spot based on your performances. And I think Werner is certainly a player who has the opportunity to do that, although I would argue he has a lot of competition in his position. Again, Werner perhaps a player who's not as versatile as others. I mean, he can play in wing positions, he can play as a lone striker as well, but I think if you compare him to, let's say, maybe a Kai Havertz, perhaps, he can play the striker role a little better, I think. But then a Kai Havertz can also play on either wing. A Kai Havertz can fill in midfield, and a Kai Havertz has already, shown that he can even play in defense in a left-back position if required. And I think when it comes to tournament football, those are the players that are going to get their noses in front in terms of selection. Let me just take another look at some of the comments here. In the friendly against France, perhaps Julian prepares another right back or 3 centre backs and 2 wing backs to stop Mbappe. Good test against one of the big favourites in the Euros. Definitely, I think these 2 friendlies, I mean, not only are they a spectacle and will always be a spectacle, something to enjoy and look forward to, but I think they'll be a fantastic test and a way for this Germany side to see where they are against the likes of an Mbappe coming at them. You know, how will they deal with that? How will some of the youngsters deal with playing against big names, world-class players? I think it'll be a fantastic test, and a match definitely worth watching. Make sure you guys do join us for that. That is on Saturday. It's a 9 o'clock in the evening kickoff, Central European time, in Lyon in France. Germany taking on the 2022 World Cup runners-up with Mbappe and company. Should be an absolute cracker. Going back to some of the comments here. Is Kai Havertz going to start as a central attacking midfielder or a right back? Yeah, well, again, that goes back to that versatility that he brings to the table. I mean, your guess is as good as mine as to where Kai Havertz will start. I'm not sure he even knows, probably, but will be really interesting to see. I think the role he's been playing at Arsenal, sort of that attacking sort of wing position, has been really effective, but he's almost given a sort of free role in that attacking third, doesn't he? Sometimes he just sort of drifts inside, then drifts back out wide, interchanging with the likes of a Trossard or a Saka, something that Germany could well do as well. Will there be a stream of the France-Germany or Netherlands-Germany game? I'm afraid there will not be one here on YouTube. No, it will be on television. As far as where to watch it in your country, I'm afraid you're going to have to do that research yourself. I'm not privy to that information, I'm afraid. I do apologize, but I'm sure it can be found somewhere, especially the France-Germany game. I've got a feeling there'll be plenty wanting to show that game. Well, the players with another drill here. Julian Nagelsmann. Of course, these open training sessions, never going to give too much away in terms of tactics. Some more for the press, for the fans. Mr. Boy with love from Bangladesh. A lot of love back to Bangladesh and to you, Mr. Boy. Thank you for joining us here. Looks like the boys going through a finishing drill here. Fantastic save that was. Yeah, Marc-Andre ter Stegen there. So feel free in chat to give us your predictions for these upcoming friendlies. How will Germany fare in Lyon against France on Saturday? And how will they do against the Netherlands on the 26th of this month, excuse me, against the Netherlands? Give us some scoreline predictions, maybe even some starting 11 predictions as well. As we see young Musiala, he'll have a big part to play in both those games. He definitely, for me, is one of the young players in this Germany team that gets me most excited about the future and about the Euros. I think if he can have a standout tournament, then Germany could really do well and perhaps catch a lot of people by surprise. Also, let us know how you think Germany are going to do at the tournament. A reminder of when they start, the 14th of June will be their first game to kick off the action in Group A. Germany taking on Scotland before they then play Hungary on the 19th of June and then Switzerland on the 23rd of June. 3 games that I personally think Germany probably could and probably should be winning, and could find themselves through to the knockout stages after 2 matches played. If they managed to get some wins together against Scotland and Hungary. Chris, thank you for joining us here in the chat as well. Of course, a role really going to be interesting. The squad certainly wasn't lacking any quality in midfield. Yeah, definitely. It will be interesting to see what sort of a role he'll have. Would it be a playing role? Will he be a regular in that midfield, or has he been brought in to sort of use that experience, that knowledge, that intelligence, and sort of transfer it over to some of the younger players? Will he be more of a guide, or someone to look up to, or will he really be out there doing the business? We'll have to wait and see. Greetings from Berlin, Germany. Greetings straight back to you there. Thank you for joining us as well. Benjamin Pauli believes it will be a tough group, but that Germany have the quality to go through for sure. EK Universe. I think an informed Germany team should win the Euros. I just wonder how effective Nagelsmann's tactics will be. Well, I think we're all eager to see what the tactics will be, what the formations used will be, what the starting lineup will be, what that final squad selection will be. Still so many question marks hanging over the Euros in terms of what Team Germany and Julian Nagelsmann will do. Of course, some big teams in that tournament as well. The likes of England have a fantastic squad. They've been looking very strong in recent tournaments. France, of course, always a threat. Spain, another team that you can't really count out. I mean, Croatia, a team that just seems to live for international tournaments and always seems to go far. It really is incredible how such a small country with such a small population continues to develop such incredible international teams at senior and youth level as well. Who else have we got in the mix? Belgium, perhaps, in terms of players available and strength in depth. I mean, Belgium, always a name you have to pull out of the hats, but will this be the year they finally sort of live up to those expectations? They've been underwhelming, to say the least, with the squad they've had available. The likes of KDB and well, I mean, you could just go on and on and on, even during the times of Eden Hazard. They never really lived up to expectations. So could this be the year? They are in a group where you feel they do have a very good chance of advancing. Belgium with Slovakia and Romania down in Group E, as well as the playoff winner, whoever that may be. Portugal is a bit of a dark horse, if you ask me. I think if you look at their squad and the players they have available, also the group they're in, I think they've got a really good chance of advancing to the knockout stages. And then once there, I think people forget they are very experienced at these Euros tournaments. They're always in the mix in the later stages, so it will be really interesting to see how Germany fare against everyone else. But first off, they need to get through that Group A, and I think their chances of doing that are relatively high. Let's take another look at some of the comments here. Course comeback helps to bring hierarchy in central midfield. Kimmich, Goretzka didn't work anymore, therefore Kroos with a dedicated defensive midfielder like Andrich really helps. Great point there by Björn Bombastic. Thank you for joining us in the chat. Definitely, I think there's so much that Kroos brings to this team, whether he plays or not. I think just having him in and amongst the other players can only be a positive thing. And personally, I think he's still got plenty to give out on the pitch as well, when put together with a right combination of other midfielders. A nice balance of experience and youth could be really effective for Germany. Anza Karim is the line behind Füllkrug, going to be Musiala, Müller and Wirtz. For me, amazing decision if Nagelsmann goes with it. Yeah, again, that attacking third, so many different combinations you can have there as well. Will be really interesting to see what Nagelsmann tries out in these next few friendlies, and then what he goes for come the Euros in the summer. Could be very different, of course. Remember Nagelsmann saying the door is still wide open to everyone, and the end of the season for players will be instrumental in terms of his team selection. He's already shown with his selection for these two friendlies that he's going with players who are in form rather than the big names, the usual names you might expect. So already taking a bold step in terms of selection there, something that I personally am a fan of. I think he should always go with informed players and then back that up with a handful of experienced players as well. But that's just my opinion, and I'm here commentating the live training session while Julian Nagelsmann is out there actually conducting the training session. That's the difference. That's why he gets paid the big bucks, and that's why he makes all the big decisions. Back to the chats. Germany should really take their chances and score. They work hard and create, but seem not to score. I hope they'll work on it in training for sure. Edward Muchiri, thank you for that input. Yeah, definitely they've sort of been lacking a little in front of goal. Of course, such a rich history of amazing goal scorers. Thomas Müller, who is in the squad, is probably the standout player and the most reliable in that department. Currently, Maximilian Bayer, Niklas Füllkrug, Kai Havertz and Dennis Undav, the other strikers available to Nagelsmann for these two friendlies. Be interesting to see if any of them can perhaps get the ball rolling in terms of finding the back of the net again. Has rarely been a problem for German national teams, but has been a slight issue in recent times. So I do agree with you there, and that will be something I'm sure Nagelsmann will be trying to unlock in the coming days, weeks, months, building up to the Euros. Leonardo Hudilis, why speak English and no German? So you currently find yourself on the German football page, which is the English-speaking DFB channel for everything that is German national team and DFB. You will have it in English here. If you prefer a German stream, you can of course find that as well. Just search for DFB instead of German football, and that will take you to the German channel. Everyone else also helping out in chat as well. Thank you for passing on that information with me and for me. So Gabriel Candablanco putting up his most likely lineup against France. Neuer in goal, then Kimmich, Tah, Rüdiger and Raum at the back. Gündoğan, Kroos, Musiala, Wirtz, Müller and Füllkrug up front. Well, I'll tell you what, that's a tasty lineup if you ask me. And again, it has that balance, doesn't it? You've got the likes of Musiala in that young freshness, and then the experience of Kroos and Müller, not to mention Neuer in goal as well. And Kimmich, although you probably wouldn't necessarily call him part of the old guard, he certainly has been in and amongst the old guard longest. And although he's in his prime right now, he's probably one of the more experienced players. I think Tah and Rüdiger in central defence, that will definitely be the go-to. Nagelsmann stating that already in the press conferences. Speaking of press conferences, there is one at 1 o'clock Central European time today, so make sure to get involved with that as well. Anza Karim, if Füllkrug doesn't start Saturday, who do you see as the striker? Well, it's a tough one, isn't it? I don't get the feeling Nagelsmann will start with Undav or Bayer. I certainly think they'll play a part. I think they'll possibly come off the bench, and then depending on performances there, could possibly get a start on Tuesday next week against the Netherlands. But against France, I can see Füllkrug probably getting the nod up front. If not Füllkrug, then lone striker with the likes of Havertz and Musiala in and around him. Maybe like a front three that can sort of interchange and move positions, try and keep the French defence guessing a little bit. But I think Füllkrug will probably start, maybe with Müller in behind him, and then either Havertz and Musiala joining that front three, if it is a front three. We'll have to wait and see, but it's your guess is as good as mine, if I'm completely honest. I think Havertz probably deserves a start based on his recent form, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Füllkrug up there as well for the first game. Whether or not he'll start the second, I'm not so sure. I do think Nagelsmann will use these two friendlies to experiment a little bit, especially with the likes of Maximilian Bayer and Dennis Undav being called into the first team for the very first time. I would be surprised to not see them given an opportunity to impress the manager, but we'll have to wait and see there. Of course, with Andrich and Gündoğan, Timoner position will be better. Yeah. Well, I think Andrich certainly deserves a start just with the way he's been performing with Leverkusen. I mean, what a season they've been having, and Andrich has played a big part in that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a lot of game time. EK Universe, I hope Leroy Sané makes the final squad. Well, he would have probably been in the squad, but his suspension after that red card against Austria in the last friendly before the new year, the last friendly that this German team played, was shown a red card in that game and is therefore suspended and therefore not part of the squad here. However, that does not mean he will not be part of the squad for the Euros. I think he's definitely a player that, well, he seems to have a bit of a love-hate relationship with a lot of fans, doesn't he? I mean, I think there's a lot of fans that perhaps feel he could perhaps do more with the talent he is blessed with the abilities he's gifted with. Others would say he's a must-have in the squad because of those abilities, those gifts. His speed is absolutely incredible. His explosiveness when on the ball, equally impressive. He's got an eye for goal as well. I think for me, the only downside to Leroy Sané is probably his lacking in consistency. I don't think we see him bring those match-winning performances week after week enough, if you know what I mean. He definitely has good spells, but seems to go off the boil at times as well. Perhaps sometimes has an attitude issue, but I mean, that's just looking from the outside in, and there's absolutely no proof of that anyway, as it looks like the players seem to be winding down here as this open session seems to be coming to an end now as well, which means our live stream is coming to an end now as well. At least I think it is. Always hard to tell, but we were going to be with you for about an hour, and we have just about reached that now as well. I will try and dive into a few more comments as well, just in case we do sign off in the next few minutes. Nagelsmann philosophy is to strike in two waves. This team will fit him excellent. Yeah, he does have that sort of waves of attack mentality, doesn't he, in his play? Be interesting to see if he changes the way he manages and his tactics at an international level in a tournament format compared to club level over the length of a season. Of course, it is a different style of management, so it will definitely be interesting to see how his management style evolves at a national team level. Will be really interesting to see. So great comment there. I Björn Bombastic. I think Müller should be seen as a substitute who gives the team stability if needed. His Raumdeuter qualities are still relevant, but in terms of overall abilities, the offensive lineup is too stacked. Too stacked. Well, I think that's a problem. Most international team managers would probably like to have a team that is too stacked. Of course, it does give you problems in terms of final selection. Is always going to be in a position to upset a few people. I think that's just part of the job. But yeah, definitely he's got some decisions to make. 100%. Ansar Karim hopes Gnabry will make the final squad. Yeah, I think you're probably not alone there. Gnabry does have a lot of fans, and another player very similar to Leroy Sané for me. Definitely seems to have his moments, but then go off the boil. A player that needs regular game time, something he's not necessarily getting at the moment at Bayern Munich, and that could hamper his chances of being selected, because Nagelsmann, I know I keep repeating myself, but he has said that he's going on form for the tournament, so he wants players who are playing well, who are playing regularly, and whether or not Gnabry will be one of those players, well, time will tell. Should be a very interesting end to the season in the Bundesliga and in leagues around Europe and around the world, wherever potential national team players might be. They could still push their way into the squad with good performances and a good end to the season. Nice stream, love from India, thank you so much, Mohammed Sufaid. Junior Kennedy, I hope Germany win the Euros. I'm sure you're not alone in the chat. Best of luck from Bangladesh. Mimnun Khan, thank you very much for joining us as well. Big thank you goes out to everyone else. Danke für die Mühe, Herr Moderator. Schön machen Sie es. Thank you very much. Vielen Dank, kann ich nur sagen. What else? Seems to be pretty much everything in the chat so far. Players still having a little kickabout out there. And Karim, is Rudi Völler anywhere in the training pitch? I'm not sure if he's in the training pitch. He might be in and around things. He's certainly part of the entire setup here. Of course, was with Nagelsmann and Rettig when they attended a school near Mainz as part of the international break, as part of collaboration with them and the school systems in Germany. And daycare centers as well, hoping to get the enthusiasm about football going in schools. Of course, something that will help the national team down the line. The earlier you get kids involved in the game, the earlier they can get to a place where they can then flourish as footballers, build those skills and abilities, and hopefully one day be part of a professional setup and then part of a national team as well. Looks like we've got a little five-a-side drill going on at the moment here at the DFB campus. Commentator, are you on site? What's the atmosphere like? Positive towards going far in the tournament. Message from Chris. No, I am not on site. However, so it's difficult for me to comment on the atmosphere. Am I positive about them going far in the tournament? I think Germany have a really good chance, especially with the Euros being held in Germany. I mean, playing on home soil in front of a home crowd can go one of two ways. It can, if things don't go to plan early, it can sort of give that added pressure on the players, and the mood in stadiums could go against them, something that they'll have to deal with. But if they can get off to a positive start, I think the first 2 games will be absolutely vital. I know that goes without saying in a tournament format where you need to win your games in order to move on, but I think good positive results in terms of also their performance. If they can deliver on a performance level, give the fans something to feed off, something to believe in early into that group stage, then I think they can only go from strength to strength, really. And I think a Germany team playing well in Germany will take some beating. So I'd have to say I'm cautiously positive in terms of what Germany can do at the Euros in the summer. Let's have another look. If we focus on our defence, for sure we will win the Euros. Well, I think teams like Italy have always shown that if you can be defensively sound, your chances of moving on to the latter stages are right up there. I mean, Italy built a whole football philosophy around exactly that. Germany in the past, I think defensively have always had world-class players. They've always been very sound, and that's been part of their success at international tournaments. So definitely getting your defense right is definitely one of the first steps that needs to be taken. So it'll be interesting to see if Rüdiger and Tah are the answer in central defense for Germany. Certainly seems to be what Nagelsmann is going for and hoping for. A love from Palestine, Afnan Sawad. A lot of love back to you there. Thank you for joining us. Thoughts on the Champions League draw? Well, it's an interesting draw, to say the least. The Bayern Munich game should be a really good one. Be interesting to see how Harry Kane does. Will he finally get his hands on some silverware? We'll have to wait and see. That's plenty of the international team players who are here with the squad will be taking part in that Champions League matchup for Bayern Munich as well. And it's games like that, experiences like that, which is why those players are regulars here in the national team as well. As we see Rüdiger completely wiped out there. But it's that sort of experience that you need to bring to international tournaments as well. So I think having some German teams still in the Champions League can only be good for Germany. Speaking of Bayern Munich players, Kimmich stepping up to take a penalty against Manuel Neuer. Björn Bombastic. Some younger pundits in Germany say that the squad Nagelsmann has nominated has the unexpected chance to create a new bond with the fans, depending on the 2 games against France and the Netherlands. Well, I think there's a lot of truth in that, definitely. Although I wouldn't put too much weight behind the 2 games simply because they are still friendlies. It is still an experimental period. There is still time before the Euros, and I think we still will see some changes to the squads selected between now and then. So let's say perhaps Germany don't necessarily do extremely well against France, against the Netherlands, or in one of the games, or in both. I think it's important that fans don't get on Nagelsmann's back too early, on the team's back too early. They have to certainly realize that these are games where Nagelsmann, some of the few games Nagelsmann will have where he can try things out, where he can find things out, where he can ask questions from his players and get answers, things that you simply don't have the time for once you're at the tournament. So although I do agree, it's a great opportunity to give fans belief if they can put together good results, good performances. It is also important to remember that they are still friendlies, and even two fantastic performances now against France and the Netherlands do not guarantee a fantastic performance at the Euros months later. So great points, and definitely worth thinking about. Till get it right. Respect and support from India. A lot of support from India. A lot of people joining us from India. A very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for getting involved in the chats. I have so many hopes for Havertz and Musiala. Musiala. These two will write history, I am sure. Well, I'm definitely with you. And when it comes to Musiala, a massive fan of that young man. I think the sky is the limit for Jamal Musiala. Just seems to be going from strength to strength, and will be one of the players I'll be definitely keeping an eye on at the Euros and during the build-up to the Euros. As for Kai Havertz, I had my doubts about him, I'm not going to lie. I was excited about him as a young player while still in the Bundesliga. I then thought his move to Chelsea perhaps wasn't the best for him and his career. That proved to be the case. But the way he's bounced back and almost resurrected his career at Arsenal by also not running away from the Premier League. He wanted to stick it out. Joined a fellow London club, which is always a risk. We all know how English fans are when it comes to their clubs and their loyalties to their clubs. So going from one London club to another, definitely not an easy thing to do, but he got the Arsenal fans on side straight away. He got down, did the hard work, and is now a go-to player for Mikel Arteta. So I think he could have a really, really big summer, especially if he finishes the season well with Arsenal. Of course, they're still in and amongst it in all the big competitions. Could be a fantastic year for them. And if you get a Kai Havertz, who maybe has a Premier League title, possibly even a Champions League title under his belt, I mean, he's going to come into the Euros with, well, endless confidence, and could be a fantastic asset for Germany. Do you see it possible for Bayer Leverkusen to finish the season undefeated? They could do it in all three competitions, which would be legendary. I think legendary is, yeah, the least you could use to describe their season already. I mean, if they pull that off, that would be absolutely, well, unbelievable. I can't see them staying undefeated in all competitions. But then they just seem to always grind out a result when they need to grind one out, blow teams away when they need to blow teams away. I mean, it could be an incredible season for Xabi Alonso and Bayern 04. I don't see them remaining undefeated in all competitions, but I could stand corrected come the end of the season. I wouldn't put it past them. I do think they'll need a little bit of luck. They have had a little bit of luck already, and I'm a firm believer in there's only so much luck you're given in a season, and you need to just hope it comes at the right time. But again, I could be wrong. With the way they're going, you wouldn't put it past them. Do I expect it? No. Would I be absolutely bewildered by them doing it? Probably not. But with the likes of Andrich and Wirtz, Jonathan Tah, all part of that, again, just like Havertz at Arsenal, players who are getting used to winning, getting used to winning games late on, getting used to turning games around and still coming away with the victory. You know, these are all things that build a mentality that if you can take into a summer and an international tournament can only help your international teammates and the squad as a whole. Hi from Thailand, Ronapat Luangyok. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. Absolute pleasure to have you here as well. Sansub Bendata, let's go Germany. Some big Germany fans here. Any guess on formations used by Nagelsmann? 4-2-2-2 or 4-2-3-1? I mean, it's really hard to tell with Nagelsmann. I mean, it was a 3-4-2-1 against Austria back in November, in a game which really didn't go to plan. Germany never really found their rhythm. You have to give credit to Austria, of course, in front of a home crowd. Austria against Germany, always a bit of a derby as well, if you like. So it's quite an emotional and high-stakes encounter, even if it's just a friendly. Austria showed up, Germany didn't really. But I don't think that was necessarily a problem with the formation. It was just the form of the team on the day. So I think a 3-4-2-1 is something we could definitely see. Although in that 3-4-2-1 we had Rüdiger, Tah, joined by Hummels as sort of a back three. Now Hummels no longer a regular starter at Dortmund this season, based on form, not part of the squad for these two friendlies for Nagelsmann either. So could we see a four at the back perhaps in these two friendlies for Nagelsmann? We'll have to wait and see. Against France, they have a lot of speed down those wings, so possibly a back three with two wing backs. The other option there, maybe even a back five if Nagelsmann wants to play it safe. I don't think there's much use in playing it safe during friendlies. I think win or lose, it's probably best to try things out and see what works and what doesn't work. And if things don't work, then not to get too down on it, because it is still a friendly. We are Germany fans. Kerala from India. A warm welcome. What else do we have here? For Bayern 04 achieving a truly invincible season, it all depends on the EuroLeague. In the Cup, they are the only first-tier club left, and in the league, they can grind out the games. Definitely, I think in the league, it's theirs to lose. I think the DFB-Pokal, they certainly would be considered the favourites. The Europa League, there's still some big boys in that. You know, the likes of, I mean, if you consider Liverpool are still in that competition as well, I think that will probably be their toughest task. Some big teams still in there. So I think winning the Europa League will take some doing still, but with the way they've been going in the competition, there's no reason why they can't do that as well. As for the Bundesliga, I think if they just stick to what they've been doing, it's theirs for the taking. After what has been an incredible season, if they can finish the Bundesliga unbeaten, that would be something else. EK Universe. Kroos Musiala chemistry could be similar like Bellingham at Real Madrid. Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great shout. I think Kroos is he's such an intelligent player that's it's the way he brings his teammates into play. Sometimes Toni Kroos can go under the radar. Not always. I mean, don't get me wrong. Toni Kroos has games where he stands out and his class is there for all to see. But I think the danger you have with Toni Kroos is that sometimes he's so good that you just get used to his class, and then you sort of forget about him a little, and you don't see the little things that he does, and the way that he brings other players into play, the way he allows other players to play their game, the way he creates space for runners, little pockets of space, the way he draws in players with his control of the ball, and then has the eye to pick out the right pass at the right time. That's the sort of experience that money can't buy. And I think Toni Kroos is going to have a big part to play, especially with his reintroduction to the national team. It might just rejuvenate his whole international mindset, if you know what I mean. And we might see the best of Toni Kroos still to come. I mean, how many times have we seen players sort of towards the end of their career almost get like a second wind, if you like. I think İlkay Gündoğan, perfect example of just that, arguably playing some of the best football of his career towards the end of it. Certainly was the case with his time at Manchester City. Was always good for them, but it wasn't until that last season before he left that fans really started to see and appreciate just how good Gündoğan actually is. But Ahmed, you can't stop Mbappe. Well, that's probably true most of the time. I mean, what an incredible player. Say what you like about his attitude at times, perhaps off the pitch, maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but what he can do and is capable of doing when on the pitch is probably the best in the world, and his pace as well. I mean, he's like a 100-meter sprinter that can play football better than most, which is a scary prospect to say the least. Sansub Bedanta, who can be the next prominent striker in our present team? Well, that's a great question. I think it's definitely it's a role that's there for the taking. I think you have Müller, who you can rely on if things don't go to plan. So I think he's I don't want to call him a plan B, because I think Thomas Müller would be a lot of teams' plan A. However, I think the door is open for someone to come in and sort of make that position their own. Could it be one of the new kids called in, you know, like a Maximilian Bayer or an Undav? Could these two games help them cement their place in the team and then secure that ticket to the Euros as well? It's a difficult one to answer. I think Füllkrug will probably be the safe bet. I think Thomas Müller will be the plan B, possibly the plan A, depending on the opponent. And then I think the go-to up front is still there for the taking, because Füllkrug, although he is very effective, he's, I don't want to say a one-trick pony, but you can set up for a Füllkrug, and then if you do what it takes to take him out of the game, it's not like he's got that many other sides to his game where he can adapt and all of a sudden become a striker that's going to be bombing down the channels, in between defenders, pulling defenders out of position, you know. I think rather than expecting him to change his game and adapt, we'll see a substitution and then someone else come in. So if an Undav or a Bayer can perhaps show in these coming weeks, months, that they can not only hold the ball up well to bring others into play, carry an aerial threat, but then also adapt in situations and become part of a front three, maybe find themselves out on the wing, come back inside, make those runs, we could see someone else break into that role. So, great question. We'll have to wait and see. I always say, do not ever underestimate the German team when they have a good boss. Nagelsmann is not only a good boss, he is also young and can feel like the players themselves. Well, I think that's another great point. Nagelsmann and his connection, relationship with the players, how big will that be? I think we'll get a feel for that in the coming weeks. I think he's held himself really well in press conferences. I think no one doubts him as a world-class manager. He's proved that at club level on numerous occasions. This is his first real test at international level, and I think these two games, albeit friendlies, like I said, will really be a good show of his confidence as manager, his relationship with the players, his boldness in terms of selection, which I think he's already shown here. And I think what will be really interesting as well is his boldness in terms of decision making during games and out on the pitch. I think that's what makes or breaks really great managers, is how they react to situations in real time, and how those decisions then affect the outcome of the game. Let's see here, to get it right. Germany will stop Mbappe. Mbappe has not scored against Germany. To be honest, I'm not even sure if that is true, but it could be. I'm sure you've done your research there before posting the comments, as the players here seem to be getting themselves a drink or two. Apologies, just joining the players there in a quick drink break. Oh, Gabriel Candablanco. It is Kroos's first game with Julian. It will be interesting to see if he uses him as a potential pivot in a double six, or playing as an 8 in midfield of 3, as Joachim Löw did in 2014. Yeah, definitely will be. I do believe that Nagelsmann, as any new manager, as any young manager, does have to stamp his authority on this national team. I don't think he'll be afraid of doing that. I don't think he's that sort of a manager or person. I think he's very confident in his own ability, very confident in his own decision making. But I do think after such a long and successful period under the likes of Joachim Löw, I think managers that followed struggled to follow in those footsteps, if you like, which definitely hampered their time in charge. I think Nagelsmann might be the young and fresh change that the German national team needs. I do think his relationship with the players will be key, but I think him stamping his authority on his role nice and early into his tenure will be even more important. And I think he's taken the first steps in doing that with his team selection for these 2 friendlies. So all the signs, or the early signs, very positive, if you ask me. Some of the players now signing some shirts for some of the fans who are in attendance here in Frankfurt. And looks like the training session has now ended and is winding down, which just leaves me to say thank you to all of you who joined us today from all around the world. Fans from India, Nepal, you name it. They've been with us here today. It's been an absolute pleasure enjoying this open session with you guys, and getting down to the nitty-gritty. To those of you who played your part in the chat, a big thumbs up and a big thank you from me as well. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing your thoughts and getting down into the discussion. Don't forget, we have those 2 friendlies to look forward to. 2 fantastic games on the cards here during the international team break. The first on Saturday. So on Friday the team will fly over to France, and on Saturday the 23rd of March at 9 o'clock in the evening, that's Central European time, 2100, Germany will take on France before they return to Frankfurt to play the Netherlands in their second friendly on Tuesday the 26th of March next week, 8:45 evening kickoff. So make sure you join us for all of that. As for the training session here and now, it's been an absolute pleasure. A big thank you, and a lot of hearts go out to all of you in the chat as well. Big thank you back to all of you who joined us And until next time, stay safe and take care.